Hey guys, how you doing today? Just out to get some groceries. Thought on my walk home, hey, why not do a video, right? I might not have my job, so I don't have my usual walk home, but I can fabricate with it. Speaking of fabricating things, so this video is going to be dedicated to the British Columbian government's release of a anti-basic income document. The British Columbian government has had commissioned the, see if I can get these universities right, the University of BC, the Simon Fraser University, gotta love that Fraser connection, eh? Always a good thing to do, have a connection to Simon Fraser of, oh, does that sound familiar? Anyway, and of course the University of Calgary. So all the far right-wing institutions, right, aligning with the far right government that has taken over British Columbia to release what amounts to be a propaganda document on behalf of the oil industry and the capitalist society, right, the capitalist class, I should say. So I took the time to actually go through this document to see, okay, well, what are their arguments? What analysis have they used? But more specifically, what have they omitted? And what are they saying about the basic income? And the reality is it's the same classic conservative nonsense that the basic income disincentivizes work, even though they provide no evidence. They don't even cite existing studies to show any of this kind of stuff. They fabricate their own material, cherry pick sources, the way that you expect from these sorts of things. But what I thought was most telling when I was looking through this document was the complete and total omission of the reality of the end of the neoliberal agenda, which has been the transfer of wealth away from the populace into the hands of 5 or 6 people, right? That we're supposed to take seriously the proclamation of the high cost of the basic income, while like 10 times the amount of money required to fund a basic income has been stolen from the society and is sitting in offshore accounts. This became extremely obvious when I read, this isn't going to be a direct quote, obviously I don't have it in front of me, but they started to talk about justice an awful lot, which I thought was a very funny thing for them to be talking about at all. Justice, this idea of justice within the context of the basic income. And the more I read what they were saying in terms of justice, it became very obvious that what they were arguing was that the theft that the capitalist class has perpetrated against the populace was correct and right and should be maintained. They said things like, the basic income, we need to speak about it in mutual respect, not only for the people who are experiencing poverty, but for the people who will pay to alleviate that poverty. So we should have respect for the thieves who have actually stolen from us and have transferred all of this wealth with their political surrogates up to their own coffers so they can shove them offshore, right? And this offshoring of wealth is completely eliminated from the discourse. The BC, this BC propaganda document, which you can find in the description below, you can have a look for it yourself. It's completely done specifically for that classic sort of liberal positioning, right? To diffuse and to take policies that would work and diffuse them and to pretend as though they aren't functioning, and then to offer little insignificant minor piecemeal reform solutions, which is exactly the liberal agenda, which is exactly how liberals and conservatives work, right? So if we and upon reading this document, it just becomes extremely obvious how ideologically driven it is, right? They spend pages and pages and pages, instead of actually doing actual analysis, taking a look at actual data, they just spend reams and reams of paper justifying their position through this exploration of justice, right? Which I've never seen a basic income advocate actually talk about. We view the basic income as a practical solution to a practical problem, right? That there are people who do not have food and shelter. How do we get these people food and shelter in the most effective way possible? Providing a basic income would be the most effective way to provide food and shelter for these people. But of course, if you're a neoliberal, practical solutions don't work for you, because the only practical solution you care about is how do we steal the most amount of wealth away from the populace and put it into offshore accounts. And so this omission of this obvious reality that is actually happening from this paper tells you basically everything you need to know about it, right? Of course you can pretend like the basic income is unaffordable if you don't admit reality is happening. Of course you can pretend as though the basic income won't work if you don't actually talk about the instances in which it has worked, right? If you don't bring up the child care benefit, which in a 500-page document they don't. If you don't bring up the old age pension, which in a 500-page document they don't, right? As long as you omit facts and omit reality and spend all your time talking about an ideological basis for your rejection of solutions that work and have worked and do work, then you can say what you like. And this leads into a pretty serious conversation about like the entrenched, how capitalist interests are entrenched deeply in our large-scale institutions. Like, we're talking about universities here. Universities that should be considered credible sources of information and are not acting as bad faith actors in this conversation. But it's incredibly obvious that they are, right? Like, they talk about mutual respect, but they don't even respect us enough to present us with the facts, right? They talk about justice, but they're not actually interested in presenting evidence or information to us that is actually embedded in the real, right? You can talk all you want about these flowery terms and these flowery things, as long as you ignore the very thing required to actually enact any of them, which would be evidence and facts, right? And if you omit the child care benefit, if you omit the old age security platform, oh, and my absolute favorite thing is how they go on and on about how difficult this actually would be to implement, right? That's my absolute favorite part of this report. They spend lots and lots of time trying to convince you, and if you're gullible enough to believe this, that a basic income would actually be difficult to implement. The liberal government literally erected a basic income in front of our eyes called the CERB, right? It took them a week, and then very promptly turned around and dismantled it in less than a month. Anybody who comes at me with this narrative that says, oh, the basic income would be too difficult to implement, I know is lying to me, right? I know for a fact is lying to me. So we have very deep entrenched interests that are manipulating the populace at the university level, at the academic level. And that makes total sense, right? The universities are completely reliant on the capitalist class to maintain this system of debt peonage and debt slavery that the university systems inflict on the society, right? When you leave university, you have hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt, which plunges you into a form of serfdom, right? You have to work for the capitalists in order to pay off this debt. Instead of the system being structured in such a way so that students go through it freely, and then when they leave the university system, they're able to actually pursue their own interests, right? You can't have that, because if you have that, and if you have a free society in that way, then the capitalists can't exploit them, right? The capitalists can't exploit their labor, can't exploit their expertise, can't exploit their skills. They have to ensure that the capitalists, that the students and the recently graduated have to be completely enslaved to the capitalist system. And that's how it works here in Canada, right? You end up with tens of thousands of debt, so you're either completely impoverished and discarded, which is exactly what happened to me, or you end up in a position where you have to join the established capitalist institutions. And if you don't join the established capitalist institutions, well, then you're abandoned, right? And that's the structure. That's how it works. And so this document, I highly advise that anybody who has kind of a masochistic streak inside of them to spend some time and read this, because it is exactly the way that the capitalist class is going to react to a basic income. They're going to present themselves as rational, reasonable, and well-researched, but they're going to lie to you constantly. They're going to omit large-scale evidence and large-scale facts. They're going to omit truth. And what this document actually really does show us is that the capitalist class is scared, right? The capitalist class is scared of us because they know that they don't have a leg to stand on. They look at the enormous lengths they're going to publish what is a propaganda, like, it's not a pamphlet, like it's a 500-page document that they've published, which is just a complete farce, or total set of lies. But they're willing to put the resources and willing to double down on this because they know that if they don't at least present the propaganda and present the lies, that the basic income will come through, right? The basic income is an incredibly popular idea. It holds 70 to 80% popularity amongst liberals and NDPers, right? If Jagmeet Singh doesn't actually run on the platform of the basic income, then he's completely co-opted, in my view, right? If he doesn't actually run actively on the basic income, then he's been bought by capitalists as far as I'm concerned, right? Like, it's a political slam dunk to run on a basic income while Justin Trudeau is standing around saying, oh, I don't see the path, right? Well, then we don't see a path to his election, right? And if Jagmeet Singh is not going to actually run on a basic income, then he's been bought. And that should be the position of everybody in Canada. But we're in a difficult position, right? Like, the Green Party has just been completely capitulated to capitalist forces. They've swung to the far right. The Liberal Party has been completely co-opted. They've swung to the far right. And now we're seeing in this article how desperate the capitalist class is to propagandize the public in order to maintain their own power, to ensure that they can keep enslaving us, to ensure that they can continue their systemic domination of the Canadian populace, while simultaneously completely destroying our environment and destroying our society and having it crumble under our feet. This document is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment, and the people who are responsible for writing it should be ashamed of themselves if they're capable of those emotions, which I doubt they are. Okay, this is going to be the end of me, guys. Please like. Here, bonk, bonk, bonk. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, no, I'm in the wrong spot. Bonk, bonk. There's the like. I found it. There's the like. Please share it. Go piss off your conservative uncle. Go piss off your conservative dad with this. Share it around. Hit that like button. And if you've made it to the end of this, please subscribe, right? Please subscribe. The subscriber count, I'm almost at 200. I'm almost at 200. I can do it. I believe in myself. And hey, if you're really in the mood to help me on out, I just lost my job. I got fired because I said the word union 3 times in my workplace. And if you want to give me a buck down in the Patreon below, I could really use the at least the moral support. It's less than a cup of coffee, right? A dollar doesn't hurt anybody. Okay, guys, I love you all. Do not let these guys gaslight you. They are actively attempting to gaslight you. Do not let it happen. All right, good luck. We're going to need it.